And welcome back, everyone, to a new episode of the Skating Penguin Network. We are back with our second mailbag episode of the week. It is Thursday, July 11th. I am here again, being Robbie Snail on the other end of the line. We have a couple questions to wrap up from this week's mailbag tweet, and then I grabbed a few from past mailbags that we never got to kind of wrap up this episode. So we got 10 on dock for this week. Before we get into it, Snail, how is it out there in Seattle? How's your week been going?
Uh, it's hot, which is it's not as hot as it was a couple days ago. So I'm, as everyone knows, I'm coming off of COVID,
Yep.
which was really gnarly. I guess there's this new kind of variant going around.
Oh, cool.
So a lot of people are getting it out here. Robbie, is it going around out there?
Not that I've heard. I haven't heard of anybody that I know of getting COVID. At least not that they got tested positive for COVID.
Oh, okay.
But I can't say for sure. Maybe it is.
I know, like right now, after I brought it up to some people, I think there's like 5 or 6 people within my immediate circle that have COVID right now, positive COVID,
Wow. Yeah.
which
I
is kind of
mean,
weird.
yeah. Yeah. Again, if maybe one of us got COVID, then it would really pop off around me. But so far, I'm going to knock on wood and hope that um, we don't get whatever variant is floating out there now.
So I just got a gripe about this. So I was coming off of COVID, still not super sick, but still had a lot of symptoms. As everyone knows, also I'm a painter, so right now is my busy season. I had a job. This real estate agent for this real estate agent. The house is going on the market. It was the hottest day of the heat wave. It was like 95 degrees outside. I had to go finish this job.
Oh,
So I had COVID symptoms, and I'm working on a back porch, staining this deck in 95-degree weather. Got horrible sunburn. I wore sunscreen, still got horrible sunburn. And then it's been a couple of days since then. Today it feels like I have a concussion. Like I've been wearing my sunglasses inside all day. Can't look at lights, hurt my eyes. Loud
nice.
sounds are giving
Yeah.
me anxiety. Can't string together many thoughts. So it'll be interesting to see how this pod goes. Thankfully, it's kind of light and we're just answering some more fun questions. And then I started drinking my coffee this morning, and I got something what I guess is called the devil's itch, and it's a deep, deep itch from sunburn.
Ah,
An insatiable itch. Fortunately, the aloe vera and all of that concoction I put on this morning is kind of working on my shoulders. Just a kind of a hellish week, to be honest. Summer is kicking my rear end right now, but we're grinding, and it's, I'm happy to be here and answer some fun questions, get my mind off of it. Probably gonna take a dunk in I have a cold tub. Probably gonna dunk
yeah,
myself in that a little bit later and
yeah.
soothe the irritation and hopefully get this. It's literally. Sorry, I saw my internet cut out there.
I was gonna say you just like dead stop talking. I'm like,
Oh no, that wasn't the COVID. That was just my internet. But dude, did you know that like COVID can create like mimic concussion symptoms?
yeah, I've heard it can have a bunch of neurological side effects as well, which is definitely terrifying. Thankfully, the two times I got it, I did not have anything like that. But yeah, I've heard of COVID being linked to a bunch of bunch of symptoms, not just neurological, but all through the body. So it's definitely not necessarily fun.
No, it's actually today I woke up and I was trying to just kind of get myself together and I was like, I can't believe COVID causes this. It made me fearful of it again, kind of like back when we were all going through it back in 2020. But I had to get that off my chest, Robbie. Let's get to some
All
questions. Let's
right.
talk.
Yeah.
The first question's coming from our good pal Andreas out there, and I think it's Germany.
Yep.
And this is a fun one. How would you spend your day with the Stanley Cup, and what would you do with it if you were so lucky to have hoisted Lord Stanley and win the Stanley Cup?
So yeah, I think this is a question that every hockey fan's probably pondered at some point in their life. I think I'd go private and small. Um, I mean, you do all that work. I think I'd go private and small. Maybe rent out like a again around here. We have lake houses around here. Maybe rent out a lake house about a half hour from here. Have family and friends over, And again, you can get crazy off just just some beers, some out of the cup, have an open bar, just like a wedding reception, except with the Stanley Cup. Like, what could be better than that? Maybe take it for a dip in the pool. Definitely put it in bed for at least a night. I mean, you got to. I mean, your chance of you doing that are very slim. So you got to take a good snooze with it. Definitely would eat something out of it. I probably like spaghetti or something, because like something I really like. So probably spaghetti. Or
Robbie, no, we've had this question before a long time ago, and you said the best answer I think I'd heard out of anybody. You said you would have Thanksgiving dinner out of it.
Was that me?
Yes, that was you, and I thought that was a tremendous answer. It's not. Thanksgiving has got to be one of the best meals you eat all year.
Yeah.
And you said Thanksgiving dinner out of the Stanley Cup, and
okay.
I thought that was tremendous.
I kind of do remember that now. But yeah, if that was past me must be much smarter than present me. If that was my answer, because you bring that up. Could you imagine in a bowl, like, you got your mashed potatoes, you got your stuffing, you got your turkey, gravy, any other fixings and sides? I mean, that would be like a legendary, like a legacy moment, like for you. Like, you have like Bobby Luongo was at some kind of Italian restaurant. And the thing I think about, like, the cup is, like, that bowl is so much bigger than you think it is. Like,
oh yeah,
you can fit a gargantuan amount of food in there, like a food challenge amount of food almost. Another one I thought I was like, just go somewhere and get, like, I want this thing filled to the brim with as many wings as you can possibly fit in this thing.
Apparently, the Stanley Cup can fit 17 bottles of beer in it.
So that's a big bowl. Like, that's a healthy amount of food. Like, yeah, you could fit a pretty big Thanksgiving meal in there. Imagine just filling it all with mashed potatoes and gravy.
Well, you said Luongo. What, he was eating like penne pesto out of it or something, or like
it was like vodka penne or something like that, and like you could tell it was a significant amount of pasta, like just a lot of food.
And for the Panthers, what they went through down the stretch there, he probably lost so much weight from stress that was just like, that was just to get him back to baseline.
Yeah. And he's retired now, so he can eat whatever the hell he wants.
He can. He looks like he's still in great shape. But Thanksgiving dinner out of it would be great. Obviously, like 100 beers out of it would be great.
Dude, just like at the party, just like keep filling it with beer. Like, one person takes a swig, and then as it gets low, just start loading up with some Yuenglings, because we're in Pennsylvania.
Yep.
Would not be the cheapest drinking adventure, but
if you won the Stanley Cup, you could afford it.
Yeah. If you're winning the cup, even as a member of the team, you have the money to be able to buy it, or to pay for whatever alcohol in there you want. So
I think I heard Erod say, I remember this question very well, because I remember saying this when we got asked this question, probably like 8 months ago.
Oh, it's been a while, yeah.
Yeah, I think I remember saying that I would have taken it to this. There was this awesome bar in my hometown. It's where I met my partner. It's where I've just had so many great times. It was called the Cozy, but it's gone now. And I remember saying, because if I had won the Stanley Cup, that would have meant that I was an NHL player, and this place got closed down, and I would have bought this place and kept it running on my own dime. I would have taken it there and just had come one, come all. Erod actually said a great answer. I love a frozen margarita, like a blended slushy margarita.
That would be good too.
I would fill it with a blended Slurpee like margarita and put the set. Have you ever had do you guys have 7-Eleven out there?
Not like, it's more of a suburban thing. I'm a little more rural, but it wouldn't take me long to get to one.
Okay, so you've been to a 7-Eleven.
Oh, yeah.
You've had a Slurpee before? You know those straws that have the scoop on the end?
Yeah.
That's what I would eat. I would have a margarita out of it with one of those. And, I love poutine as well. And it's such a Canadian thing. I'm not Canadian, but like, I think just enjoying like a massive thing of really good poutine out of the Stanley Cup would be like, there would be a lot. Like, that's like a perfect thing to do with it, I think. It's the perfect meal to eat out of it. It's like Canadian nachos.
A massive taco salad.
A massive. What about nachos? Just a massive thing of
That's
nachos.
kind of what I was going with there. Yeah, massive nachos or like a poke bowl out of one of
Oh,
them
there you
things.
go. Yeah. What
I
would
mean,
be
we're
the
getting
most disappointing thing you could do with the Stanley
oh
Cup?
man.
What's something that like Garrett would do with it?
Uh, the most disappointing thing. Um, I
Because
don't
Garrett
know.
said he hates like seasoning. He says he eats just like turkey, dry turkey
Oh
with
yeah,
pasta all the time.
probably just butter noodles. I mean, they're good. But, I mean, and they're good, but like you got to get a little adventurous. You're only gonna get to do this once. I honestly think like cereal would be boring out of it. Like that's just so generic now. Like
Oh, worse than that would be just oatmeal with no seasoning in it. Just a
just
massive,
oats.
just oats.
Oats. Like
That's
a
what
horse.
Garrett would do.
You're like a horse.
I'm sure. I'm sure there's someone out there that has done like really like a massive disservice who thought they were celebrating, and everyone's like, "That's what you did with the Stanley Cup." I'd like to know that the other side of it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what Snell and I would do with the cup. If anybody else has any ideas what they would do with the cup, drop it in the next mailbag quote. We'll talk about it because
let us know.
Everybody does something different. So yeah, let us know. Moving right along here, Brian with the second question. He wants to know which draft pick from this year was your favorite.
Is this regarding just strictly the Penguins, or is this like
I think so. I'm going with the Penguins. I'm facing this as the Penguins.
I mean, I'm sorry. It's Tanner Howe.
Yeah. Signed his
just signed his ELC.
Yep. He did.
He's captain of the Regina Pats. You don't think he's going back to junior?
I don't think you can if you sign your ELC.
Oh, that's a good point. So he's going to go straight to probably the AHL, right?
It sounds like it.
Unless he makes camp.
Well, I mean, he'll be at the beginning of camp. I didn't really see too much about what he did in camp, but most of the attention was on the goalie we'll talk about in a little bit. But
from what I heard, that this guy at Tanner Howe in the second round is a steal. Yeah. I heard that a lot of people were shocked he was still on the board.
Yep.
Western Leaguer, love that. I think there needs to. If I was a GM, I'd be looking at the Western Hockey League probably for most of my picks.
That's where Braden Yeager is.
Braden Yeager, Moose Jaw Warriors. I mean, just every Stanley Cup, it's just laden with WHL guys. I think the schedule, I think the style of play, it's just it just breeds great NHLers. Yep. And it's got to be for me that Tanner Howe guy. And I think that's the Penguins didn't have a first round pick this year. So it's like, I think the fact that they got somebody that is a shock to be left on the board at that point is the best case scenario. And, after that, I'm not going to lie. Like I probably couldn't really tell you too many of their draft picks after that. I remember when they all got drafted, I remember reading about them, reading some of their stats and stuff, but Tanner Howe jumped off the page at me. What about you, Robbie?
I'm going a little deeper here. I'm going with Max Swanson. The guy they got in the 7th round. A lot of the draft experts point to that as maybe one of the steals of the draft. The dude is very small, but he can, from what I've read, he can play. He's just going to have to beef up a little bit. Obviously, size, your height, you can't really affect too much, but he has the skill to project toward an NHL player here in the future. He's obviously going to develop more as he comes up, but Swanson in the 7th round, again, they're all Flyers at that point, but again, the Penguins found success these Crosby years with guys in late rounds, and if a guy like Swanson pans out, the next era could be the success in the next era could be led by a guy like Swanson. You get into the 7th round. He's
a forward, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, with the way that the game is trending and the way the game is played right now, it's never been more favorable for undersized players. I think we can talk about, when you talk about defense and D-men, that's a different story. And I'd probably be willing to die on that hill that I think right now in the NHL, you see with teams that win the Stanley Cup, it's big D-men, as they call them, trees on the back end.
Yeah.
I think the Penguins might have been the last team to really win the Stanley Cup without an oversized defensive core. I think Dumoulin was their biggest guy.
Probably.
I think Scuderi might be kind of tall too, but he's not a tree by any means. But yeah, like I was saying, these undersized guys with skill, I mean, if their skill can really make a difference, the game is never catered toward an undersized player ever, and it's slowly been trending that way, and it's going to keep trending that way. So I don't mind them taking a flyer on a small skill guy. It's like Connor Sheary, pretty good example of a smaller, undersized guy. He's not a massive dude. It's a skill. Sid's not the biggest guy.
Yep.
I'm not mad at it. But yeah, I think from what we've heard so far, Robbie, that the Penguins did fairly good. Dubas did a pretty good job with their drafting. Now they just got to develop them. That's the next part.
Yeah, that is the next part.
Next question from our pal Kim Larson. He asks, on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is the worst, how do you rate this goalie situation? More goalie talk.
More goalie talk. Always goalie talk.
Well, it's a big thing right now.
It is. Yeah, I don't blame. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a big thing until we have some answers here. So I'm going to go dead in the middle and say 5. I don't think it's. Again, they have 2 goalies, 2 NHL caliber goalies. It just depends on. Again, it all really for me depends on Tristan Jarry. You have the Blomqvist question mark. As of right now, it looks like they're going to give him another year to develop. But again, things can change quickly. Trades can still happen. We have a long way until training camp. So yeah, nothing is finalized. But I'm going to go 5. The Nedeljkovic, I like bringing back Nedeljkovic. I think he's completely capable. For me, I just can't rate it higher because Tristan Jarry is still such a big question mark. Until proven otherwise, again, I need something. I don't need performances in October, November, December. I need performances in February, March, April. And for me, that's what it comes down to. And this, unless one of these goalies would fall off the face of the earth, it's going to remain in that 5-6 neighborhood until we get proven otherwise in the spring. That's kind of where I stand with the goaltending situation. Question number 4 from Brian. How important do you think it is that Murashov is at prospect camp? That is the Russian goaltender that we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, sort of a highly touted Russian goaltender the Penguins have in their system right now. And it's incredibly important because, like we just talked about, this goalie situation, we've got Tristan Jarry tied up with $5 million or so on the cap. And, it's not like the Penguins haven't given him this fair shake in Pittsburgh. Injury riddled. It's the best availability is availability. Isn't that what they say, Robbie?
Yep.
And he hasn't been healthy when we've really needed him to be. And then when he has been healthy, he's had some massive blunders. I think he's kind of like the golden standard, the definition of one of those players, a goaltender that can get you kind of there, but he can't get you through. And that's just been falling. That he hasn't even been able to do that in past years. So it's tough because I do think Jarry is a starting goaltender. I just don't think it's working in Pittsburgh. I see him doing well out west. I'd wonder if Colorado would ever take a flyer on a guy like him. I think with the Penguins, we all know their kind of system and the way that they play with their the really mobile offensive D. I think Jarry, he was tied with the league in shutouts last year. I think if you put him in a more defensively sound, more shutdown type team with that sort of defensive system, he probably would be a much better goaltender. Do you remember last year, in the years prior, Jarry, the D would leave him high and dry a lot, which is on the D. It's not on Jarry, but he was making some crazy saves. He's flailing around in net a lot. He's a very active goaltender, and that always makes me nervous. That's how you get hurt as a goaltender, having to make those explosive saves, and he has to do a lot of that in Pittsburgh. So I'm just curious as to I could rant about Jarry, but back to the Murashov, my point is that Jarry is, it's not working out with him here. And with this goaltending conundrum where you have Ned locked up for 2 more years at 2.5 or something like that. Yeah. And then you've got Blomqvist who's on his ELC. And if you could get Murashov in there, that's a lot of goalie potential really cheap. And, it goes the other way where you have young players that are really good on their ELC. That gives your team flexibility with the cap and all of that when you're getting production out of these players on entry-level contracts. Murashov being there is a great sign. I'd love to see if he could. I'd love to just see even get an answer on where he's at. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think Robbie U is a fan. I think a lot of the fans are curious about him. So I think it's nothing but good. It's a little bit of a logjam at goaltending, but that gives you flexibility and the capability to really shop Jarry which I think it's long overdue. He needs a change of scenery.
I would agree.
All right, where are we at now?
Yeah. Next one.
Ed Helsinki. Is this a new question asker?
I believe this is, yes. I believe this is truly a new question asker.
Welcome, Ed. He asks you, Robbie, what's left for Penguins management to do this offseason as far as reshaping the roster? Goaltending?
Well, yeah. One, probably figuring out if you're going into the season with this goaltending. I think it's at least shop and call around for another top six winger. Unless you're okay with Drew O'Connor being up there. But again, unless something changes, that is the case right now. But if you want to shop, are you going to open up any more cap space with a trade like Rickard Rakell, a name that we've talked about? You have about 10 defensemen on the NHL roster right now. How are you going to sort that out? What's the plan there? Obviously, we know that Jack St. Ivany's kind of cementing a spot there now as well with that new deal. You have your AHL coach in hand. You have David Quinn now behind the bench, so that's taken care of. I really think it comes down to just kind of sanding the edges, basically, unless you want to go out there and make a big splash for a top six winger, and you're going to have to move a decent sized name to get that done. Is somebody willing to take on Rickard Rakell? I don't know. We have Michael Bunting. Are you going to go into the season with Valtteri Puustinen? Is he ready to make that a permanent leap now? It seems like he certainly is. So more or less, it's just about looking what's out there. If they find a deal for a top six winger, I think they pull the trigger. But you're going to have to move out a big contract to probably get that done. So, it's going to be more or less just determining if they're happy with the roster they have now, or if they want to go shopping for a big name. But I think I lean more toward small moves rather than anything big. But obviously, last summer we had the Erik Karlsson trade all the way into August. So, always just keep your ears open to see what's happening, and we'll play it by ear.
Robbie, as far as like a top six winger, is there anybody on this lineup in your mind that you could think of that if let's say they were to pull a move on with Rakell and just to clear the cap, much like a Riley Smith type move, let's say no retention, they give him up for a 2025 fifth rounder. Where are you at with as Penguins fans, were we just so desperate for something last year that we were looking at Valtteri Puustinen with kind of magnified glasses on? He had 2 goals last year? Something like that. I think he had
it was maybe 3.
Maybe 3 goals last year.
He had 5.
5. That's
a
lot
15,
more.
He did have 15 assists too.
Not bad, but top 6 numbers. Let's be honest here. Is Puustinen really it? I feel like sometimes as Penguins fans we forget that we've got former 3rd overall pick in Puljujarvi, who played on McDavid's wing at times and big frame. He's got a good shot. He just hasn't really been able to put it all together yet. Is he a bust? Do you see a world where Puljujarvi, is there a whisperer out there to get Puljujarvi to turn into a solid top 6 power forward?
He does drive play, he just can't finish, which is kind of the motto for a Penguins forward. But I'd love for this system to work out for Puljujarvi because I think he can be a fine complementary player. At this point in his career, I just don't know if he's ever going to have that top 6 pedigree. I just don't. Again, he's been on 3 teams now. And again, if he couldn't get it done in Edmonton, that their system is designed for players to score, I just don't. Again, great complementary player, could pop into the top 6 when you need him. Second power play unit kind of guy. But I do not know if you can, at this point, if he's going to be a permanent top 6 player in the NHL.
Yeah, I guess the Penguins would probably be the worst team he's played on out of the 3. He played on an Edmonton team. Well, I guess, I don't know. The Edmonton teams he played on weren't
some bad. Yeah, they weren't always great.
They weren't always great. Carolina, he played there for just that 20 games or so. And he was on the first line with Aho quite a bit, but couldn't really get much out of him there. And then I just think I'm holding out hope. You get a guy who's like a former third overall. He was third overall, wasn't he? Or was he fourth?
He might have been fourth. Let me see.
Either way, you pick up a Penguins team who hasn't picked in the top 10 in God knows how long, probably since Pouliot. And
Yeah.
you get a guy like Puljujärvi who's a little bit of a reclamation project. If you could get that guy to work out, I love the size he has. I think my one thing with Puljujärvi is I wish that they could get him to stand in front of the net. I wish he had that
Yeah.
hand-eye coordination to be like a
Yep.
Hornquist. But anyways, I was just curious. Yeah, is there anyone else on the Penguins roster if they were to get rid of a Raquel? Is there an internal top six winger that you trust?
Not that I no, not that I see. Unless you are completely sold on Braden Yeager right now, I don't see that a replacement for Raquel coming from internally.
I have one more for you. And Ed from Helsinki, if you want to chime in on this too on Twitter or something, is there anyone out there who wants to see Erik Karlsson move to the wing?
I mean, I've heard that. I've heard people suggest that before with Chris Letang, so I'm sure somebody does.
Like I heard he was playing wing on the power play for Sweden in whatever tournament that was over the summer, at the beginning of summer. But dude, at this point, why not throw him on Sid's wing?
Yep. All right, jumping over to Kim here. They ask if the Rangers keep 30 to 40% of Trouba's salary, would you be interested in him?
This is tough for me because I love the type of player Trouba is, but I actually don't like Trouba a lot.
I mean, if the Rangers, I do not see any situation where the Rangers would be willing to keep that much salary. That's
30 to 40%. And he's making $8 million.
Yeah, so that's like $3.5 million. He was so bad.
Like, I know, but I think he
was so bad.
He had a fractured ankle or something. He had like a fractured foot or something. He was playing really hurt. But it's just like, do I want that baggage of Trouba on? You know what I mean? Like, it's like picking up old Nazem Kadri. You know what I mean? Or it's like picking up. We had a guy like that for a long time here. In what's his name? The COVID concussion's hitting me right now. What is it? Who's the guy?
Cook?
Matt Cook. I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like the drama that comes with having a player like absolutely. That. It's exhausting. And
even if he cleans up his act, it's completely exhausting because every hit's going to be under the microscope. You're going to have to just manage everything. Like, you have to be ready at the fence all the time. It was the same with Tom Wilson and the Capitals. It's exhausting. It is exhausting.
And the way he plays, he's prone to getting hurt and like the concussion stuff. Do you just want everything that comes with a player that I'm all for? Don't get me wrong. I'm all for a player that plays on the edge with some sandpaper.
Yeah.
There's an argument that Sid plays a little bit on the edge. You know, he's like not dirty, but he does what he needs to do to win. Trouba is that time. It's not a healthy amount though. Like that dude, you remember in the playoffs, he like almost killed someone and killed himself in the process just to take the. I don't know. I'm going to say no. I mean, like I love the type of player Trouba can be, but I don't want that. I don't want everything that comes with the Trouba train, as they say. What about you, Robbie?
I'm out on it. I'm sorry. They have many bigger needs than that anyway.
Can Trouba score 30 goals and play wing?
Yeah, there's much bigger needs than what's on the blue line right now. So I'm out on that.
We're out. We're out on Trouba train at 30 to 40% retained. Next question's coming from old pal Brian, and he asks, now that Garrett has stepped away, does that mean the Prospect podcast is no longer being worked on? He's been asking about this for since Garrett was in diapers.
Not necessarily. We're always looking for someone to come on and help us out. I don't have the time or really the patience to do in-depth prospect work. If someone is listening and is interested, you can reach out to Snail or I.
It might be Brian. Does Brian follow prospects? Like, is he following Wilkes-Barre?
I don't know. You can hit either of us up or just jump into the DMs on the Skating Penguin Network Twitter account, X account, whatever they call it now. You can hit us up, and if you're interested, we can try to sit down and talk and see what your interest is. I just don't have really the time or the overall interest. I enjoy reading about prospects, but to do the full deep dive and you're watching grainy footage taken from like a mom's cell phone camera that was posted to YouTube, it's more accessible than it's ever been. I will say that. Um, so we can always work something out if you're interested. So it's not necessarily dead. It was just an idea that we talked about when Garrett was still here. But yeah, we're always looking to add people. So if you're interested, let either of us know and we'll get to talking and see where we go. That's how Snell got involved.
That's how I got involved. And right now, Robbie, the prospects for the Penguins have never been more important with the way that the
Yeah.
Penguins are trending. I think there's like I don't know if a market is the right word for it, but the prospects are going to be more and more important as the Penguins sort of head into this retool.
Yeah.
So if there's someone out there, Brian, you've been asking about it. Is it you? Are you the one that knows all of the stuff about do you have the time?
And I will
Let us know.
say that the Athletic recently released their post draft uh, prospect rankings. The Penguins are now up to 24th. They were stuck in like
30 to
30th.
32.
Yeah, for I mean half a decade, maybe longer. This draft bumped them up to 24, and depending on how things go, and it depends on how prospects develop as well. Braden Yeager's development this season is a big jump in that.
That
Uh,
Koivunen kid, I guess, is a kind of a sneaky stud.
yes, the one of the prospects they got from Jake Gensel, the emergence of Joel Blomqvist and Murashov in goal, and yeah, the Penguins are going to keep building up that talent pool. So there's definitely going to be an appetite for it in the coming years. So if you're interested, reach out to us and we'll work something out. All right, moving on to the next question from Edward Beckham over in Merry, England. Kind of a hypothetical here, but one that I found interesting. He said, you get hit by a car, and for every mile an hour that you survive, you get $10,000. How fast do you think you could survive to get the most amount of money? Or would you be willing to go? Not necessarily what would you be willing to go to get a paycheck?
I haven't really put myself through that test, being a test dummy for that.
I'm
But
not planning on testing it.
what I'd be willing to do. So what is it? $10,000 for
Every mile per hour that you can survive.
Oh, I mean, you could be cheap and just get hit by. I mean, $20,000 to get hit by 2 miles an hour.
Yeah, I mean it depends on how risky you're willing to get. Because I saw that and I'm like, if I can get $10,000 for just a mile an hour, but again, like I think one, if you're gonna go one, you can definitely survive two. So you might as well go at least two.
I'd probably do 32 miles an hour.
You think you could survive a 32-mile-an-hour car crash?
Yeah, because I have an electric bicycle that goes 30. Or I used to have an e-bike that went 36, and I remember going 32, and I remember thinking this is really fast, but I think I could survive this.
Okay.
In a bike crash. If a car, the thing is though, what I always learned is if you're going to get hit by a car, you want to make sure you go up, don't go down. So you go up and over the car.
Yeah.
If I kept that in mind and got hit 32 miles an hour, the windshield.
I mean, that's a glancing blow though off the windshield.
$32,000, $320,000 to get hit by 32. That's I don't know.
That's a chunk of your medical bills.
That's very true. Let's just say I would do 15 for sure.
Okay, yeah. If I now again, the I have to be able to move, like you said, jump. Can't move out of the way. That's obviously not fair. But if I can try to jump onto the hood and get glancing off the windshield, I would probably start at 15. I need to see a car going 15 miles an hour.
Well, let me think. Yeah, because it's kind of funny too, because 15 is faster than you think.
Oh, that's what I mean. Like, I need to see a car going 15 miles an hour to determine exactly.
Part of me, I think part of me says that might be willing to go 32, but I have also been in I've been in car accidents too that aren't even probably 30 miles an hour, and the damage was significant to the car. So, I don't know. I've maybe it's the COVID concussion that I have right now, but I think I could probably survive 32. It doesn't mean I have to go that high. Definitely 15.
It's according to research, the survival fatality rate for pedestrians struck by a vehicle traveling at 40 miles an hour is around 15%.
Oh no.
A stark difference when compared to the 90% survival rate for pedestrians killed. 90% at around 20 up to 30 miles an hour.
Okay, so
So like
90%.
it's a very massive jump from like 20 miles an hour to 30 miles an hour. Like or
All
no, 20
right,
miles an hour to 40 miles an hour. You're
to
going from like
40.
yeah.
Well, nah, that sways me a bit. I'm gonna stick with 15.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with 15. If 90% about 20 miles an hour, I'm thinking like we're looking at like a 95%. And that depends on me being able to react and try to brace as much as possible. I'll take $150,000.
Me too. I'd do that.
Yep.
What about you, Kim?
Yeah,
Or not? Or, sorry, Edward.
Edward.
Let us know.
Let us know what if you tried this. I really want video.
This is like a jackass stunt.
Oh, it's absolutely a jackass stunt.
All right, we'll move on from that, and we'll move over to question from Brian. Would you rather hit every red or no? Actually, no. Let's switch here. I'm going to actually read you the next one.
All right.
This is from Brian still. What is the most overrated and underrated cheese? American is my overrated and Havarti is my underrated.
So
I've never had Havarti cheese in my life. I think I've only had Swiss, American, cheddar, and that Mexican cheese called like queso fresco. Those are the only ones I've had. So tell us what you think about the cheeses here.
I will go with American as wildly over. I don't even know if it's overrated because I think most people agree that it's not good cheese. But I will, that I think is probably an overrated cheese if you're just looking for cheese. Underrated, I've really gotten on to a sharp white cheddar. It just has such a perfect bite. I could eat. I found my local deli or the local grocery store I go to sells it by the pound. They have one kind, and I just tried it and it was absolutely phenomenal. But you can get it in like little cheese squares to eat like a snack, and I got to be careful because I'll just eat the entire thing. So a sharp white cheddar is my underrated. I don't want to say American. American cheese is kind of a conglomeration.
Is American like Velveeta?
Yeah, I'm gonna say just like a standard cheddar. I just don't think I'd rather go with a sharp cheddar. I just think again it's good cheese. I just think it kind of gets overblown in terms of popularity. But yeah, American cheese is like those Kraft singles or like
it's kind of rubbery.
Yeah, it looks like if you throw it at something, it'll stick to it.
Out there on the East Coast, don't you guys have access to like real what's it called? What's the white cheese that Italians eat?
Mozzarella?
Yeah, mozzarella. Don't you guys have
you can buy like I don't want to say it's not like fresh made because we don't really have any plants in the United States that make the fresh but like made in Italy and imported, it's not cheap, but you can get it. Yeah.
Yeah, what do you think about that? Is that a big deal over there on the East Coast?
I don't eat it as much by itself because there's like a weird texture to mozzarella that can be kind of like slimy, but I love putting it on like home baked pizzas and stuff like that. Or like as a topping on like bruschetta and stuff like that. So yeah, that I like it with some. I'm not a big fan of it by itself, but I do like it as a complementary to other dishes.
I feel it.
All right, last but not least, it's Brian again here. Would you rather hit every red light for the rest of your life or have to wait 30 extra minutes every time you get food for the rest of your life?
30 minutes for food.
Dude, red lights enrage me. Like, obviously we need them, but I read this question. I don't think I've ever answered a hypothetical so quickly as when I read this. I'm like, 30 for food. I don't even care. Like, it just... I feel like I can just sit on my phone and wait. Like at a red light, you can't really do that because like it's gonna eventually change. And you got to be ready.
Got head on a swivel.
Yeah, I answered this so quickly. I'm glad you agreed with that because
30 extra minutes for food every time I got food for the rest of my life is a small price to pay for the rage that I feel every time that the green is getting stale and you're coming up on it and then it turns yellow, but you're still too far back to kind of punch through. I mean, I don't know about out there, Robbie, but out here, we've got the freeway, the main artery of freeway called I-5 and 405 that really can take you just about anywhere in the state. That goes into I-90 East, all that. 3 major kind of freeways that take you all over the state. But then out where I live, before the freeway was ever here, it's called Highway 99, and it's just every 200 yards it's a stoplight. And
Oh,
to go down to the city, sometimes it's quicker to go to the city on Highway 99 than it is I-5, because I-5 turns into such a parking lot on a weeknight that you just take the pain of hitting every red light from, for 12 miles to get from here down to the city. But yeah, it's enraging. Stoplights piss me off super bad. Especially out here when it rains so much. If you're stuck out there on a rainy night and you've got you're dealing with the stop and go. A lot of accidents happen. The oil builds up, and then you get a rainy day, and you're slamming on your brakes for a red light or a yellow light. It's just a mess. So I'll take the 30 minutes for extra for food over
absolutely.
over stoplights.
Agreed. Absolutely. So that wraps up part 2 of this week's mailbag. Some questions from an old mailbag as well. So again, if you guys have any questions that could be answered that are not, I guess, time sensitive and can be asked later on in the summer, please ask those as well now, so we can, like I did today, go back and pick some out for future mailbags when the hockey news kind of grinds to a standstill before we can get into September and stuff. So that's about all I got. Not too much in Penguins world. If you're a fan or if it involves or concerns you at all, the Penguins officially announced today they are teaming up with Coca-Cola as the official in-arena beverage provider at PPG Paints Arena, replacing RC Cola.
So you're trying to tell me that in the PPG Paints Arena, you guys had RC Cola?
Yep, it's been there since it opened.
Dude, I thought we don't have RC Cola out here. The only times I've ever seen it is at like a grocery outlet,
Yep.
where it gets all that stuff from like all over the country.
Yep.
I didn't even think that was a real brand of soda. I thought that was like Faygo or something.
No, it's I remember when they announced that back in, I believe, 2010, and everybody thought it was like a prank almost. Like, you're not serious. And the fact that it lasted 14 years is in of itself a kind of a miracle. But yeah, it has been, RC has been the main soda of the Penguins at PPG Paints Arena since its inception, and now they are switching over to the premier cola drink, Coca-Cola. I'm a massive Coca-Cola fan, so that's good news for me. But yeah, that is,
and that means all of Coca-Cola's products as well, right?
I would assume so. I'd assume it's the entire lineup.
I saw also, off topic, I think it's great that you guys finally got Coca-Cola up in there, because I think Climate Pledge is a Pepsi.
Oh, okay.
But it's great you guys got Coca-Cola up in there, and RC Cola is out. I don't know how that's still a company, if it even really still is.
Well, I mean, it's the one soda that, like, it's still like a budget soda. You can get it really cheap at
is it a
kind of convenience store, or
is that like a Pennsylvania company?
Is RC? I don't know if it's Pennsylvania. No, it's not. It's in Georgia, so it's East Coast though.
Okay.
It's run by it's currently owned by Keurig Dr. Pepper. So, yeah. They did have Dr. Pepper at Penguins games.
Love Dr. Pepper.
I love Dr. Pepper. Everybody in my family dislikes it, but it's one of my favorite beverages.
You know what else is a good one? Is Pib.
Is that like Dr. Pepper?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
It's Pib. It's called Pib Extra, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
Did you see? I saw this on my feed somewhere, and I was gonna bring it up when we recorded. The Penguins parted ways with like an equipment, like a staff manager.
Yeah, that would have been Chris Stewart, who was
the
longtime athletic trainer. He's been a equipment manager for almost 30 years. And he kind of like a Dana Hindy thing. He was just ready to step back. The role, it was just such a grind year in and year out. He previously won a cup with the Carolina Hurricanes. He was their equipment manager. He's actually from here in Western Pennsylvania, close to where Dana Hines is from. So Yeah, good for Chris. He's been there. He's been doing this 30 years, but I understand wanting to get away from the grind of it all. So
In 2022, the Johnstown native went to Las Vegas to represent both Eastern Conference teams in the All Star game. Head athletic trainer for the Penguins, responsible
yep,
for handling all the team's compliance with the NHL's protocol during COVID-19 pandemic. That would have been enough to make you want to retire.
yeah,
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 anyways, that must have been a nightmare. So, stick taps to him in a
yep,
hell of a career.
yep,
Probably just super tired of seeing Sidney Crosby's Frankenstein's jock.
yeah, yeah.
That'll make
At
someone
least
want to
he's not
retire
the
too.
equipment. At least he's not the equipment manager that has to actually touch it, but he might have been charged in disinfecting. So,
Just having
um,
to see that like a
yeah,
corpse hanging in the locker room every day.
yeah, yeah.
Well, good luck to him.
Yep. Good luck on. I don't
Does
want
he
to
have a
call.
ring? Does he have rings?
Yeah, he has his name on the cup.
Hell yeah. I love
Yep.
that for those guys.
Yeah. So he has four. Dana Heinze has four. Um, but yeah. So that's all I got. Snail, do you have anything? Any last words before we wrap this episode up?
Nope. Hopefully, let's hope for some Penguins news trickling in. I know that
Yeah.
I think we're officially in the doldrums of summer right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. You'll get a few, maybe a small signing here or there, but most of the heavy lifting's done unless there's a trade going down.
Daniel Sprong's still out there. Phil Kessel's still out there. Yeah, we'll wait and see. But until then, we'll be back with keep asking us questions,
Yeah.
life advice, anything. We can talk about anything on this podcast.
Absolutely. We have there'll be another mailbag question tweet going out on Sunday. Look for that. Snail and I will be back next week with 2 new episodes of what we talk about TBD. But until then, for Snail, I'm Robbie. We will talk to you guys next week. Also, before I do, at the last second, it is now out there that we can talk about the Chris Letang skates.
Oh yeah, the Florida
Have
Leash.
the fleur de lis that we hinted about on previous episodes. We interviewed the creator of those skates, CJ Gamble, last month. Go listen to that episode if you haven't. You can find it in your feeds. Go on Instagram and you can see Chris holding the skates. And we got a preview of them after our interview. They are buttes for sure. He was the other Penguin with Evgeny Malkin that CJ was working with. So go check them out because they are very nice. They are based on an old Nike design with some special touches for Chris Letang, specifically the fleur de lis, with being French Canadian, and then the colors are actually the old Quebec Nordique colors as well. They're very sick. Go check that out and listen to our interview with CJ again because it's good. It's fun to now that that's out. We can talk about it because they are six skates, and CJ is a 10 out of 10 human.
He's a friend of the show.
He is a friend of the show, and he will at some point be a repeat guest of the show,
Yep.
probably in the fall once he continues to make progress in his Just Do Hockey venture, and we're gonna have hopefully some pretty sick uniforms to show you guys too that he's
Yep.
creating. Hopefully we can get our hands on some of those to show you. Don't want to give you too much, but they're a pretty sick mock-up that he created that we do talk about in the show a little bit. So go listen to it, and hopefully we'll have those on the show at
Yeah.
some point to show you guys.
Go listen because this is someone who actually is doing a lot of groundwork in what I consider truly growing the game.
Yeah,
Like he's
yeah,
literally growing the game in different parts of the world where the game has yet to really kind of grasp and take off. And he's really doing a lot of probably a lot of pro bono work too, just for the love of the game. So
yeah.
go give it a listen. Check out those skates. We tweeted it out on our Twitter or X page. Awesome skates. Just would like to see a little footage of Chris Letang wheeling around up in Quebec this summer, maybe or something. When
Yeah, go check it out. Super cool guy, super cool interview. You learn a lot about hockey equipment and hockey in Asia, which again, a market that hockey is exploring but hasn't taken off yet. So go give it a listen. But for Snail, I'm Robbie, this time actually signing off, and we will talk to you guys next week.